Okay, welcome to a new episode of Nate's MMA Corner. I'm Nathan. If you watch my show, you're in my corner. Today's episode is a post-fight show for UFC 226. Miocic versus Cormier for the UFC Heavyweight Championship of the World. And, let me just fix this. Okay, so, there we go. Anyways, so we had in the main event a heavyweight clash for the UFC Heavyweight Championship of the World. Stipe looking to defend the belt for the fourth consecutive time against current UFC light heavyweight champ of the world, DC, who went up to heavyweight to challenge for the heavyweight championship of the world. And yeah, this fight, I would say it lived up to the hype. I mean, some people would argue, but it lasted round 1, 4 minutes, 38 seconds. It was a KO punches victory for DC. Stipe looked like he was landing some good strikes in the clinch, but I think Stipe, where he messed up was he should have kept the distance and just let his hands go in the boxing and stayed in the pocket but not clinch up. Avoid the clinches, but he probably felt comfortable there, and it seemed to be working overall for a period of time. I mean, when they showed the stats towards the tail end of the first round, it was 18 significant strikes for Stipe and 17 for DC. So Stipe was just edging out narrowly, but then he got caught with the elbow, fell on the ground, and DC landed punches. And Stipe was out, and so our new UFC heavyweight champ of the world is Daniel Cormier. And for me, I'm sure you noticed his t-shirt. For all you guys remember Death Clutch, that's a Brock Lesnar label. And Brock Lesnar jumped in the cage and then got into a scuffle with DC and was spouting words pretty much to the whole heavyweight division, saying how basically he's the man and he's going to get that belt back. And for me, that was the icing on the cake in terms of the fanboy in me. I was just ecstatic to see Brock Lesnar back in that cage, ready to go, wanting that title shot, wanting that belt, feeling he can do it. And who knows, maybe he can. I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, I know DC wanted that fight, and then Brock wants the belt back, so they both want this to happen, and I'm pretty excited about it. Hopefully, it happens later this year, and who knows? Injuries, delays, all that stuff, and but for now, DC is your UFC heavyweight champ of the world. And it'll be exciting to see how this plays out in the months to come. Then, also in the heavyweight division, in the co-main event, we had Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis. I called this one perfectly, Derek Lewis by unanimous decision. However, what I did not anticipate was it staying, for the most part, standing. I mean, it was hardly any punches thrown. I thought Derek Lewis would be getting takedowns each and every round, and that would win him the fight. He would just land maybe 1 or 2 takedowns and then maybe not do a whole lot with it, but just take him down and maybe throw some ground and pound, but nothing too damaging where Francis would be out. And I thought that would just repeat each of the 3 rounds, but instead it was just they were both kind of hesitant, and Derek just outpointed Lewis or Ngannou on the strikes, and the crowd was booing. I actually enjoyed this fight for the story behind it, because he had Francis afraid to engage because he was afraid probably to get taken down, and then you had Derek Lewis afraid to engage because he was afraid to get knocked out. So they're both scared to engage, and they're both real hesitant. And then Herb Dean stopped in and was doing a speech to both of them, basically saying along the lines, you have to engage. And it made the fight like, wow, some people were not expecting this, including myself. I thought, once Francis threw one punch, that would be Derek Lewis's cue to shoot for a takedown. And Derek Lewis won this fight fair and square. I think the right guy won. And yeah, I think the judges got it pretty much right. I mean, 29-28 on two of the judges and 30-27 on the third judge. Good win for Derek Lewis, but with a performance like that, the UFC will probably win another fight to get a title shot. Or who knows? I mean, but it didn't win over the UFC or a lot of fans, I would imagine. But I was a fan of both these guys going in, and I still am a fan of both these guys after the match. Anyways, then in the welterweight division, we had Mike Platinum Perry versus Paul Felder. This one was some good clinch strikes and just guys taking hard shots. Perry busted Felder in the middle of the fight, got him a cut and a small hematoma on his forehead for Felder. And yeah, Perry, I believe, possibly won the first round and the third round, and I think I had the second round for Paul Felder. But ultimately, I think the right guy won this fight. Mike Perry needed this win. It was a good win for him. Not the most impressive win, but still a good win in a guy in Paul Felder who is respected in the MMA community. And I think Paul Felder will learn from this fight and bounce right back anyhow. We've seen it before with him where he's bounced back from a loss and won his next fight. So yeah, Paul Felder will just hang in there, and I'm sure we'll see more of him. And then Mike Perry, well, we'll probably see more of him due to this win that he was just a tough fight for him. Then in a catchweight bout on this main card, we had Anthony Showtime Pettis versus Michael Chiesa. Wow, did not see this coming. I was like, if there's one fight on this main card that's a given, that I was like, for sure, no ifs, ands, or buts, this is a done deal. I thought Michael Chiesa was going to submit Anthony Pettis and get him on the ground and ground and pound and then work in some submission. Boy, was I wrong. Anthony Pettis got submission triangle armbar, and in the second round, wow, 52 seconds into the second round, did not see this coming. Anthony Pettis needed this win bad. Michael Chiesa was saying, hey, you're going to be sent to Bellator after this fight, implying that, you know, Pettis would lose and the UFC wouldn't want anything more to do with Pettis for the time being, and Pettis would be on Bellator. But Pettis won this fight, and Michael Chiesa, it looks like it's going to welterweight after this fight, as he said in the weigh-ins after he missed the weight. Anthony Pettis, yeah, it's tough where you put him after this, because yeah, he made weight at 155, but that 155 division is fairly stacked right now. And who are you going to put Pettis up against? You could throw him a non-ranked guy, and then maybe Pettis will win that. But then, you know, Pettis really going to have to rack up some wins to really get back in title mix. And I'm really excited to see where Pettis goes from here. It's just because, yeah, it's tough to figure out. You know, you don't want to put him up against someone too easy or too hard, and then he loses, and then what do you do with him? So, yeah, I would hate to be a matchmaker for Anthony Pettis' next fight. Michael Chiesa is pretty straightforward and simple. He's going to welterweight. You can give him a mid-tier welterweight and then see where he's at in the division afterwards, win or lose in that fight. Then to kick off the main card in the light heavyweight division, we had Khalil Roundtree versus Gokhan Sakai. And whoa, this fight, TKO punches round one, 1 minute 36 seconds in the first round. Did not see this coming out. If you told me this was the way it's going to end, I thought it would have been the other way around, because you have a K1 kickboxing champ in Sakai going up against Khalil Roundtree. But yeah, Khalil Roundtree is the one that knocked him out. Very, 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 very impressive win for Khalil Roundtree. Did I say very? I meant to say very, very impressive win for Khalil Roundtree. I thought, if anything, I'll take him down and submit him if Khalil was going to win this fight. But yeah, Khalil got a big win. Kenny Johnson must be real proud of Khalil Roundtree. his performance and great coaching by Kenny Johnson in this fight, being one of his main coaches, getting him prepared for this fight. Obviously, the training paid off. And yeah, so that wraps the main card. Honorable mention on the prelims, though. In the welterweight division, we had Curtis Millender versus Max Griffin. This fight, I was on the edge of my seat. Curtis Millender, I had winning round 2 and 3. Round 1 was kind of, maybe, maybe not for Curtis. But yeah, round 2 and 3, it looked like Curtis had the better cardio and was teeing off on Max Griffin and won this fight. 29-28 unanimous decision across the board. And I was really excited to see this fight. Curtis is always fun to watch him in LFA and have kept up with his so far UFC career. Obviously, we're going to see a lot more of him in the UFC, and it's going to be exciting to see where he goes. Because, I want to see the welterweight division kind of shaken up, and I think Curtis Millender is a guy that could do that. I think he'll learn from the first round of this fight in terms of takedown defense. I think he'll go through with his coaches, see what he did wrong there, and then improve upon that. But he didn't look terrible in the first round, and the second and third round he looked amazing. So overall, great job by Curtis Millender on this fight. And Max Griffin's no slouch. I mean, he's a tough guy. Anyways, so that wraps up. So congrats to Curtis Millender on that. And thanks again, Curtis, for the interview. And that wraps up the post-fight show for UFC 226. Stay tuned in the coming days for my pre-fight for UFC Fight Night Idaho, Santos versus Ivanov, in main event in Idaho in the heavyweight division. JDS making his triumphant comeback fight against former World Series fighting and PFL heavyweight champ Ivanov. Anyways, so that's going to be exciting, and you got Miles Jury returning against Chad Money Mendez in that card as well, and Marion Renault versus Katzengano. So it's a pretty stacked card for us diehard fans on that card. And so until then, I will see ya.